I think I speak for most AHS fans when I say that we were going into Season 11 with lower expectations than ever before. The season seemed dead before it even arrived, with the network barely promoting it until the last minute, and even creator Ryan Murphy paid it relative dust in favor of hyping up his recent Netflix mega hits. This lack of promotion sparked a slightly viral boycott that AHS news accounts went on in hopes that FX and Ryan would reveal the secrets of AHS NYC. Ryan, of course, responded negatively to this, which may be one of the reasons why the season ended up premiering without a trailer. But to put it in a little more context, this short-lived boycott that fans went on came after a year of really disappointing content from the show. Something the open letter signed by a handful of the largest AHS fan news accounts addressed, saying, "The fandom has become disengaged and partly jaded because of last season." And in my opinion, they do have a point. Double features seem like the writers saw complaints from seasons 6 through 9 about the show's tendency to have rushed endings and unresolved storylines, and said, oh, we'll show you what a rushed ending looks like, and we'll do it twice in one season. So with the ambitiously atrocious double feature leaving fans with a bad taste in their mouth, and not to mention the mixed dog bag that was American Horror Stories, it seemed like AHS had passed its prime, and even the network and its creators had turned their backs on it. But now, with all 10 episodes of American Horror Story NYC released into the ether, I am here to tell you that my low expectations were completely blown out of the water by the end product that we got. With all of its imperfections, NYC turned out to be thought-provoking, powerful, and surprisingly emotional. The choice to make the season one big allegory for the AIDS epidemic that would only become fully realized in the final few episodes was a huge risk. But I must say that those final 4 episodes gave me one of the most cathartic, heartbreaking, and well-rounded conclusions that American Horror Story has ever delivered. This video contains heavy spoilers starting with the next sentence, so be warned. When Patrick shoots Mr. Whiteley in episode 7, I expected Whiteley to get away somehow to propel his evil doings all the way to the finale, so I was genuinely shocked when Patrick's bullet actually hit, and it was so satisfying to see, especially with that visual inclusion of all of his victims behind him. That was a twist on the season that left me eager to see what the rest of the season would tackle now that one of its major antagonistic forces was dead. Episode 8 gives us another great performance by Dennis O'Hare, but I'm not sure why they revealed that Henry was hopelessly in love with Gino. However, that scene on the beach with Gino and Henry has to be one of my favorite scenes of the entire season. And in that same episode, episode 8, Theo's death scene at the very end was truly beautiful, and it finally begins to tie together that Big Daddy is truly a representation of HIV. These episodes, 7 and 8, bridge the gap of what the season was at the beginning and what it became at the end. If you've been following my reviews for this season, you won't be surprised when I say that NYC got off to a bumpy start for me. I still stand by a lot of the problems that I had regarding Patrick's character and the writing and a couple of the performances in those first 4 episodes. That being said, those final 4 episodes give the character of Patrick depth and a powerful redemption, followed by him tragically succumbing to his illness. And I think that Patrick could have been one of the strongest characters the series has seen if only his early appearances weren't written without a hint of that depth that he had brimming beneath the surface. I did have problems with Russell Tovey's performance throughout the season, but usually only when he was pushed to the hysterical and melancholic heights that AHS is known for, but not every actor or writer can sell. That being said, aside from a truly jarring scene between Gino and Patrick in the episode Fire Island, Russell Tovey gave a spectacular performance in the latter half of this season. Episode 7, The Sentinel, of course, and the final 2 Requiem episodes were truly redeeming to Patrick's character, and I'm really pleased to have that resolution, even if the foundation of that character was a little rough. Like Patrick, Sam is also given a powerful conclusion to his arc in the finale, and I was driven to tears during episode 9, and I can say for certain that I haven't cried to AHS since Roanoke. That being said, episode 9 was a bit jarring when it comes to its tone, structure, and pace, but that seems to be by the episode's design. By killing Mr. Whiteley in episode 7, those final episodes were given the freedom to be something different than the rest of the season, and I think these final episodes, despite their slower pace, make the season as strong as it is. I feel like the true finale was episode 9, with episode 10 serving more as an epilogue. With a 32-minute runtime and an abrupt ending, my guess is that a lot of things and maybe scenes were cut from episode 10. And to me, it did feel like something was missing from that episode in particular. But episodes 7 through 9 gave us excellent conclusions and tied up nearly every loose thread, so the fact that episode 10 leaves a little up to the imagination is definitely not a bad thing. We watch as Adam and Gino watch their loved ones succumb to the same illness while the nation and the government turns a blind eye. We see the toll that this takes on them, and when Adam is the last survivor, I do want to hear what he has to say, but in reality there are no words to truly describe the devastation he's feeling and the loss, the tragedy, the negligence, the homophobia, and the utter horror that the AIDS epidemic unleashed on the world. The fact that the season ends with a prolonged sequence with absolutely no dialogue allowed those emotions to naturally come up inside the viewer, especially when accompanied by those incredible images in the finale episode. Once again, bridging the visual gap between reality and fantasy, which I think this season did an incredible job of. The season is not perfect, but it was important to watch and truly moving. I was disappointed though with the lack of resolution or depth to many of the season's female characters. And I think at the end of the day, that will be my one lasting critique that I have for this season. I needed them to do a lot more, specifically with Fran, KK, Alana, and Dunaway, but even with Kathy and Hannah as well. Why give character posters to Alana and Dunaway when they only have 2 scenes throughout the season? I thought their characters were compelling and got intriguing introductions that just simply never paid off in any way. And I find it ironic how Fran enters the season berating Gino because his newspaper ignores the lesbian perspective, and for the most part the season itself ends up doing exactly that. Lastly, I want to talk once more about perhaps the biggest point of discussion this season, and to some a point of contention, and that is Big Daddy. In the end, I believe he turned out to be a metaphorical manifestation of HIV, as almost everyone he quote-unquote killed were actually early victims of the virus. In theory, I really like this idea, and in execution, I do think it is mostly strong. There is, however, one glaring issue that I can't quite get over or make sense of, and that is in episode 3, Big Daddy throws a Molotov cocktail into a gay bar and literally sets it on fire, which results in real deaths and injuries due to fire, whereas all his other victims can be presumed to have died due to the virus. There's nothing metaphorical about these burn prosthetics, so I'm not sure if this was just a confusing attempt to keep us off the writer's trail in the early episodes, or if they themselves don't have a defined rulebook on what Big Daddy actually is in relation to the real world and how he behaves within it. I do think it works better if he is purely a visual allegory, an angel of death in his own right, but the show makes it more complicated than that, which does feel like a detriment to me. If you've been keeping track of how I've rated each episode this season, here are the ratings of the episodes that you missed. I gave episode 7, The Sentinel, 10 Kathys out of 10, and I gave episode 8, Fire Island, 8 episodes out of 10. Nope, 8 Kathys out of 10. I gave episode 9, Requiem 1981/1987 Part 1, 9 Kathys out of 10. Goodness gracious. And I gave episode 10, Requiem 1981/1987 Part 2, 7 Kathys out of 10. The season brought out a lot of homophobia within the fandom, which just makes me even more pleased with the end product of the season and the message that it sent. The AIDS crisis is still not widely understood, and targeted hate crimes are still taking far too many queer lives. These types of things shouldn't be made light, and AHS NYC is one of the franchise's heaviest. The ugliness and the homophobia present in the US in the 1980s under President Reagan serves as the season's undertone, and it is surprisingly not as in your face as you may expect from the creators of AHS Cult. and the lack of AIDS awareness sparked conspiracy theories, paranoia, and misinformation within the plot of Season 11 multiple times, a theme that I think was reflected in the uncertainty that viewers like myself had about whether or not the season was actually going to explicitly end up being about AIDS. I remember seeing speculation about mutated two-headed deer being in the season based on some hats that were made by someone in production. That speculation, mixed with the scenes where Hannah and Fran are discussing government conspiracies, had me thinking that the season might be heading somewhere goofy, like Steve Jobs or Tentacle Babies again. And I can't even begin to say how happy I am that NYC actually took itself seriously. In a way, NYC is the anti-double feature in that it's grounded, but it's still fantastical, and in that it sticks one good landing instead of fumbling over two failed ones. Like AHS tried to do with lesser impact in Cult, NYC uses the show's format to deliver a historical message that is as timely as ever. Although it has issues, NYC is a much-needed breath of fresh air in the franchise, and it stands completely on its own when compared to the other seasons. Do I think it stands up to those early seasons, though? Well, you'll just have to stay tuned for my ranking of every AHS season, which is coming soon. But I think it has a chance. I think NYC will age way better than a lot of the recent AHS seasons. I'm looking at you guys, and I hope it finds an audience on Hulu that appreciates it so that we can go into season 12 next year with some more energy and better vibes than we came into season 11 with. In a lot of ways, NYC does feel like a return to form, but at the same time, it feels like its own thing that is unlike any season of American Horror Story that came before it. If you haven't seen NYC, I highly recommend you give it a shot, and I'm excited to see how the divisiveness of this season will hopefully evolve over time. Let me know all of your thoughts on the season in the comments below. I'll be responding to you guys and interacting down there. I've had a great time reviewing and updating on this season with you all, and I've got some more videos coming your way very soon, so make sure you're subscribed. Give this video a like if you liked it, and I will see you next time.